Welcome back, everybody, to Out at Reese's podcast. I'm your host, Reese Shalvis, and for the first time in Out at Reese's history, we're doing our first remote kind of, video call podcast. Right, I'm here with Sammy Skeleton.
Yes, sir. How you doing, bro?
Doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually a little bit under the weather right now. I woke up feeling kind of shitty, but we ball.
I appreciate you still getting up to do this podcast. So
For sure.
before we move further, I just want to kind of tell them who you are, right? Like, so you're a musician or a hip hop artist, right?
Yes, correct.
Out of Utah.
Yes, I'm currently based in St. George, Utah. I was born in West Valley and moved to Tooele County at a young age. But right out of high school, I actually moved down to St. George with my girlfriend, now fiance.
Yeah. You said you were 17 when you moved.
Yeah, I think I had been out of high school for a grand total of 3 days before I moved. Yeah, I really didn't like my hometown, so I ran as quick as I could.
And you said that was Tooele.
Yeah, well, it's like 15 minutes outside of Tooele. It's called Grantsville. So, but Tooele County, I say Tooele just because people are usually more familiar.
Kind of the general area.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yes.
yeah, uh, so tell me about your album. I hear you got coming out.
Yeah, so I just wrapped up the album maybe a week ago. It's called Mirrors. Um a lot of work went into it as usual with an album. It's a lot shorter than my previous album. It's 10 songs, but I didn't want the project to feel like really bloated, so I kind of kept it tight this time around. I don't know, the album is kind of about a lot of like inflection. I try and take most of my inspiration for my music from more so like current events in my life, and so there's a lot of that in the album. And it's called Mirrors because of, originally the name was going to be Reality's Duality, something along those lines, but that felt like a mouthful, so I switched it to Mirrors. And it's kind of about the dualities of life and past lives that I've been through and my current life and the dualities of them.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. So when you say just current events that are happening into your life, is there any that you care to kind of share that you're that
Yeah, so
about?
I actually have a lot going on right now. Most of the album was wrote like, I don't know, I'll say 5-6 months ago. The process takes a long time, so it's not very current. I actually just had a baby in late December.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that's going on right now, so I've been busy with that. But at the time, I had just been pretty freshly engaged, expecting a baby, obviously, so that's a big deal. And I don't know, just kind of reflecting. Like, the album's pretty based on current events, but there is a lot of reflection on the past, and not only from my point of view, but from points of views of other people I care about in my life.
Right. So with this album, when you started it, you hadn't had your baby yet, right?
No, no. I was expecting when I started the album, so it was around 10 months ago that I actually started. When I got the idea to do another album, because honestly, I get really bored of singles. I much prefer the project side of music. It's more entertaining to me, and it feels like a more complete body of work. So
It almost feels like a story, right? That you're kind of living.
it, for sure, for sure, and that's how I try to build my albums, is like a chronological story almost, or yeah, I mean, maybe not even chronological, but something that all fits and flows together in a way that makes sense.
Like a just like an art piece, right? Just
Yeah,
the way
exactly.
the way even maybe the song titles line up, or
Right, exactly. Now, there is a lot of that in the album too. Certain songs intertwine with the same kind of subject matter for each one.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So how has having a baby after, while you've been working on this album, how has that affected your ability to continue working on music and doing what you need to, especially for this album specifically?
So it's pretty fresh because he's only 3 weeks old now. So I haven't excuse me, I haven't really had the chance to work on music actually because a newborn baby is a full-time job, and on top of that I work a full-time job. So I had the first 2 weeks off for paternity leave, but I just went back to work, and it's a handful. I haven't really been too worried about making music yet, just because I've been focused on the kid and focused on my fiance and her recovery throughout the whole process. But it's going to be another adjustment period, how it has been so far. Like getting into making music alone, working a full-time job, it's pretty hard to find time and motivation, because after I come home from a long day's work, it takes a lot of energy to really put your all into recording a song, believe it or not, and especially if you're doing multiple songs. So I feel like it's just going to be another adjustment, you know. I have been writing still, though. I don't think I'll ever stop writing. I'm always writing, even when I'm really busy. I usually at work just play some beats that I enjoy and write a song in my head, and then write it down when I get a chance. So I've done plenty of writing, so that hasn't really changed.
Yeah, when I even just when I try to do just beats, because I haven't done any vocals yet, but like when I try to make just beats, I feel like that alone is just super draining for that couple hours that I try spending on it, right? And so I can't even imagine working full time while trying to carry a baby, take care of a baby, and then you got
Right.
all this music you're trying to work on. Like that's crazy, man. That's admirable
Yeah,
though,
I mean,
that you're still trying to get that album out, try to get pushed through that and get that going.
yeah, dude, thank you. I mean, I appreciate it. Honestly, though, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love it. I'm at a really good spot in my life. I'm enjoying the whole process of my day-to-day a lot. So, but yeah, like you said, even something like producing, because you're putting all your creative juices towards that project, whatever it may
Right.
be. It's a lot, because you're full focus. It may not be physically draining, but it's definitely mentally draining,
It
because you do put a lot into it.
Yeah, burnout's a real thing. Like it's crazy how you cannot prevent it if you just go too hard, you know what I mean? Like
For sure.
despite the lack of physicality to it, it's just
Right.
you just can't keep
I
going forever.
I actually find myself having more burnout in the process of making and dropping singles, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
it's
interesting.
weird. It sounds weird, because I feel like other artists would tell you differently, but when you're dropping singles, you want to try and do it on a consistent basis when you're an artist my size or a local artist size. You want to keep people's attention like on you. And
Right.
so that takes a more consistent basis, whether it be 1 to 5 songs a month.
Mhm.
But when I'm working on an album or an EP or any kind of project, really, I'm able to take a break from recording. Well, not really recording, promotion, interacting with people, and just able to put all my focus on just the project.
Right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that makes a lot of sense. I feel like you have a lot more it's almost like the way I like to see it is the higher you shoot, the farther you go. You know what I mean? So if you're
Right.
just shooting for one single release, then it's gonna be, you're like, okay, you've accomplished your goal. Oh, I'm tired. What do I do now?
Right.
And or if you've got this whole huge project going on, you have that like desire and motivation to keep going till it's done. So as
For sure.
finally you get close to the end of the full album, you're like, okay, now I'm starting to feel
You're
it.
right. I feel like a part of that has to do with the fact, though, it's something you're building upon, and as you're building, the ideas and the focuses become more complete. If that makes sense. They
Right.
become more complete as you're seeing each song get finished, and you're seeing the way the music interacts together from the different sounds and different subject matters on the album. So it's easier to get more sucked into that, and just more focused on it. I guess it's harder to get burnt out in that way, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That makes sense. So how do you prevent burnout? Like when you just keep going, what do you do to kind of prevent that?
So I haven't really found a very effective way to prevent burnout, because that is something I've been dealing with over the past like 6 months to a year in my career, and I'm 5 years deep at this point, so I've been in it for a while, which is kind of shitty that I haven't figured out a good way to get past burnout. But
Right.
for the most part, I just completely step away. Like, I'll step away from music as a whole, or maybe I'll just step away from the rap genre as a whole, depending on how I'm really feeling. And I won't write, I won't record, I won't even worry about it, think about it, because most of the time I'm thinking about what's the next move, what I want to record next, what kind of song I want to write, what vibe I'm going for,
Mm-hmm.
etc., etc. But when I am feeling burnt out, I'll take a week to 2 weeks to just like give myself a breather, because if you don't give yourself that breather and you try and push through it, who's to say you're not going to end up hating it more? Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, a good example is like athletes that have been doing something from such a young age, training their whole lives, and then by the time they get to the spot they want to be, they're like, well, I don't even fucking like playing this game anymore, or I don't even like this sport anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of interesting because for me, I feel like if I take off a full week or even especially full 2 weeks, it's
Yeah,
so hard for me to go back to doing it. You know what I mean?
right,
Just because I get so like kind of adjusted to not doing it for that 2 weeks. I don't want to, and so kind of what I do to keep myself like still able to jump back into the grind, when I need to, is when I'm on a break, I still try to spend at least 20, 30 minutes every day doing something.
right.
Even if it's not fully related, just something to keep my mind going and kind of related to the what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. When I'm taking a break, I don't necessarily drop everything. I will drop the process of music, but I'll still be open to ideas, and I'll still take
Mhm.
notes of like, say I get an idea for a song, I'll write something down on a notepad or in my phone, like a concept for a song, or I mean, sometimes I get bored and I'll just freestyle for a little bit. Maybe say something dope. I'll write that down.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. Do you ever when you're actually creating the song itself, do you ever freestyle and you're just recording while you freestyle, and what you freestyled, you're like, this is going in just straight up. You don't even re-sing it or re-rap it or anything.
I feel like that's a rare occurrence, but I will do that. So if I'm recording, and a lot of the times I'll get like halfway through a song and I'll get stuck on it, and I'm like, okay, well, I have the hook and I have the first verse, but there's still a whole second verse that I need to fill. And it might be a really good song, so I'll just say fuck it and start recording because I've been sitting on it for so long, and then I'll freestyle. And there is those times where I say something I really fuck with, and then I'll just keep it and not make a change at all. But a lot of the times when I am doing that and I am freestyling to finish a verse, I will go back and perfect it if I didn't like the first
Oh,
take. So
okay.
it is a rare thing, but to be honest, by the time I am recording most of my songs, I have it perfected, so crazy perfect for myself at least. I mean, you're not going to please everyone, but I have it perfected to how I want it to be, that a lot of the time it's fucking first to fifth take because
Right.
I know what I want and I know how I want it to sound.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So you said so you wait, so you said you were doing it for 5 years, right?
Yeah, I started in October of 2017, so I think that's 5 years.
Do you at this point after 5 years, do you feel like you're always seeing yourself improve, and even now, even like a year ago versus now, you feel like you're seeing a lot of growth still, or do you feel like it kind of slows down where it's hard to see the actual growth until you jump back even further?
So I feel like there was a bit of a ceiling around the 3 to 4 year mark. And the 4 year mark is in February when I dropped my first album, and I felt like I was at a really good spot. And it also felt like a ceiling because I'd been writing for so long and didn't really improve on anything past my album. But this whole past year, and like maybe like all of 2022 and the tail end of 2021, I've seen major, major, major gains. Right now, the album I'm about to drop, I mean, I still have a similar vibe to my music, but I'm a whole new artist. Like, I mean, I don't want to sit here and fucking stroke my ego, but I feel like I am far better in what I was, and this album blows everything I've done previously out of the water by a long shot. Like, even my previous singles, they don't touch it. It's not even on the same playing field.
Yeah, and I mean you can see it in some artists, like for example, I feel like I can already see how much passion you're trying to put into this album, because when I asked you to come onto this podcast, that was the first thought was, man, I would love to tie this into my album somehow, and I was like, that's a good
Yes.
idea, like let's do it. And so I can already tell like you're looking at all these different ways to really build the greatest album you've ever had so far,
Right. For
and
sure. That's the goal right now, is to I don't care where the album goes. I don't like obviously you want your music to do good. Of course, that's a given, and I am going to do my best and do my part to make it do good, but what I'm really hoping for is to deliver something that people are going to want to put on repeat. That's the whole goal.
So would you say once you hit that kind of ceiling where you feel like you're not really improving so much, would you say it's less about how well you can rap and just more about improving your style and bringing like kind of that unique, type of sound and stuff to the scene? Or what would you say, like if you're hitting that ceiling, what would you say you can keep kind of pushing past that in any way?
Yeah, I think what you said is a great example is once you find yourself at a bit of a ceiling, I think it's a great time to go and experiment with new genres. This new album feels a lot different than my last album, I would say, because it is messing with a different style and a different flavor. And I think that is what helped me improve so much. It not only helped improve my writing, but my flow, my choruses, etc. I think it's always a good idea to experiment because the more you experiment, the more skills you're gaining from different types of styles that you can implement into your own style, you know. If you're sitting there hyper focused on one genre, you're not learning much.
Right.
You're learning what that genre has to offer because every genre has almost a set of rules, and that those are the kind of rules that you try to tend to follow if you're really going for a genre. But if you're trying new styles, whether you release it or not, you're learning a whole lot more. So it really helps you get past those ceilings, not in just a new genre, but in every aspect of your music. You're helping yourself in so many different ways. You can apply all the stuff you learn to different stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely an inspiration thing as well. Like, and you can. I was speaking with. I don't know if you met Young Archie.
Yeah, that's actually one of my really good friends. Him and I go back quite a bit.
Oh, really? That.
Yeah, so I think one of Archie's first few songs ever, actually, like I would say, it wasn't his first song. It was one of the first features he did, I think, was with me. It's called 4 Pound. I don't know if you can even find it anymore, but yeah, him and I have been doing it for quite a while. I think he's been doing it for like 4 years now. We went to high school together though, and pretty much every day in high school we'd go out to my car and fucking freestyle and write music in my car on our lunch breaks, or I mean maybe even not on the lunch breaks.
That's so sick. Yeah, but so when I did the podcast with him, we were talking about how you can find inspiration from anything, and like
Right.
so I feel like that really ties in well with just going to other genres. You'll find a lot more diverse,
Yeah.
inspiration and whatever else you're trying to look for in that.
Yeah, Archie's really dope too. I feel like that kid's got a very unique style. You know, it's not really, excuse me, like I've heard similar artists, but his voice is very unique and his delivery is fucking awesome. Like it's very unique. So that kid is dope, dude. He's got a very good formula going on right now, and he actually just got the chance to open up for NLE
Yeah,
Chopper.
I
Did you
saw
see
that.
that?
That was so cool. I was
Badass.
about to bring that
Yeah.
up. I'm excited for him for that.
Yeah.
I got hyped when I saw that he won that.
Yeah, me
That was
too. I
so
was pushing it. I was pushing it out to all my friends to try and help him get the opportunity, and like everyone I could. And he's yeah, but that's my boy. That's my homie.
So was it just real quick on that topic? Was he? Is it just the concert that he's performing at, or does that include anything else?
I don't know like all the details, but I would imagine it would just be opening up for him. I know. I mean, regardless, even if it is just opening up for him, he does have that connection now to people that can get him those opportunities. So good on him.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. I've talked to this a lot with a lot of people and people I usually regularly interact with, whether it's people in the community or my friends and family, and we all kind of a lot of us have this weird feeling that we kind of started having this feeling last year, but we all had this feeling that 2023 was gonna just be a big year for all of us, just whether it's in our
Yeah.
personal lives, social lives, financial, whatever it is, right? And we've had all these kind of weird kind of coincidences and connections kind of going on, and now it's like we're really seeing it actually happen. We're seeing
Yeah.
change happen. Everyone, it seems like everyone's just feeling it. Like you just had a baby. Like it's
Right.
like Archie's got that. Everybody's
Yeah.
got something going on, and it's just like to really see it starting to play out and work out for people is like insane. And
Yeah. No, and I agree. I feel like for the past 5 years, I mean, obviously over time I've gotten more involved in the local scene as far as art goes and local artists in any facet, not just music. I feel like the past 6 months leading into this year have been a lot more fruitful than any other time I've seen. And I really hope that trend continues because I've said it before and I'll say it again, but Utah is a very resource lacking scene. Like very resource lacking. There's not much for creatives here. There really isn't, but the community that we have built is very tight knit
Mm-hmm.
and a rising tide floats all ships, dude.
Dude, that's the thing is it's despite the lack of resources in Utah, it's like we're still making something with what we have. You know what I mean? The whole community
Right.
here is making something, and it's really like it's beautiful to see because
Yeah.
I think I think Salt Lake and Utah is bringing something unique to the country. You know, and
Oh, for
something.
sure. And with how much talent there is to display here, I feel like it's very unjust that we are so under the radar, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I do believe that this year will be kind of the year that we get onto the radar and we start getting,
Yeah,
people start getting noticed more by maybe record label companies
right.
and whatnot. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well, it's things like what you're doing that really help because podcasts are such a mainstream thing that appeal to the masses. So does music, but music is people don't tend to get into the niches as much with music as they do with podcasts. And nobody on any given day is really going to search out local Utah music
Right.
artists, or local Utah clothing vendors. It to get into the niches, it's just not really a thing.
It seems like the niches nobody really cares. A lot of people don't care about them until they become the trend. That's when everyone
Right.
like starts to kind of hop on and look into that. But that's at that point that's when you are on the radar. It's like this whole community. It won't be. I don't think it'll be underground within a year or two. You know what I
No,
mean?
for sure. I see big gains. It's been a lot of gains that I've seen in the past, just even few months, honestly. I think that there is a lot more recognition than there has been in the past couple years, but we're still not where we need to be, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. I just think if we keep working together, keep trying to strive to not let each other down and just strive for our best. I do think that it'll just keep growing at a faster and faster pace, and
For
suddenly
sure.
will be worldwidely known. It'll be like
For sure.
Salt Lake will be a place that people are like, "Yo, I get to perform in Salt Lake tonight."
Right.
That's
And that's something I'm excited for. You hear a lot about in the music scene. You hear a lot about West Coast rap, East Coast rap. Artists out of Atlanta, South Texas artists, and you when you think of those places, you think of a certain sound, and it's a recognizable thing. I'm excited for Utah to be a part of that because we're, we're far inland. We don't have something that's like for the West Coast and the East Coast and Texas. It's not as much as a melting pot as it is here. If that makes any sense. It's a
yeah,
melting pot here. There's extremes on both sides, and it creates some pretty fucking unique characters and some very talented people.
exactly. What I'm really excited to see play out is like as I start to kind of because right now I'm kind of starting to branch into other genres for music as well for my podcast.
Right.
So I'm starting to move into punk rock, and I'm really excited to kind of see like what opportunities will open up for that, not just for me, but for maybe even certain punk rock artists connecting
Right.
with like hip hop artists and just
Right.
I don't know, like you said, it's a melting pot, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think other genres I feel like have it a lot easier than rappers do because anyone can be a rapper nowadays. I'm gonna shit on ourselves a little bit here because all you really need, like, dude, I make extremely high quality music with this microphone, my fucking my laptop that was like $700 and very excuse me, minimal equipment. I do that at home. And then I send my shit to get mixed and mastered off to an engineer. So anyone can really do it, but when you look at other genres, it's not as easily available. Equipment
Right.
starts being a lot more expensive. The learning curve is a lot more intense. Not to say that rapping's learning curve isn't intense, because it is. But yeah, anyone could be a rapper. So I feel like the scene is so oversaturated right now that it's really hard to find that diamond in the rough.
Yeah, that's true. And well, the one thing though, I feel like there's kind of those rough things in every genre. Like for example, going to the punk rock scene, I realized like everyone was when I went to that punk rock concert performance, all the local bands, they were bringing their own, one of which was actually from St. George.
Yeah.
But they were bringing all their own full equipment, like their
Yeah.
amps and everything else. And when coming to these performances, we see like say Storm Tour and what else. They often the event organizers usually provide like the speakers and the
Right.
DJ and
The
everything like that.
microphone, etc. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting seeing that kind of different dynamic between the two genres, as
Yeah.
and so I think it'd be interesting to see what it might look like to see them kind of come together, just or any
Yeah.
genre come together. And I think that's
Yeah.
what Utah's doing really good at.
I'm a big fan too of other genres. I don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely in love with rap music. It's everything to me, but I find myself listening to like indie bands and
Hmm.
metal and EDM way more than I find myself listening to rap anymore because a lot of the times I get bored with the mainstream and I go and look for smaller artists that are creating something unique, but like I said, with it being so oversaturated, everyone's trying to copy the mainstream.
Right.
And so that's the main reason I'm not always listening to rap. I mean, I really like the local artists we have because they all make super dope, unique stuff just based on the way Utah is. It's so unique. But yeah, I find myself listening to a lot more indie music than anything.
Yeah, yeah. So besides rap, obviously, what other genres do you feel like has inspired you for this new album that you got coming out?
A lot of like R&B, and I know you said besides rap, but melodic rap has been a big influence to me. I just love like artists like Black. I love that sound so much. The textured layered vocals sound amazing. The smooth flows, the the singing choruses are, I love them. I'm such a big fan of that shit. So a lot of R&B and a lot of like melodic rap stuff. Man. And honestly, I feel like I've taken a lot of inspiration from even though I just went on that rant about mainstream, I took a lot of inspiration from a lot of the mainstream stuff today, but I put my own spin on it to the way it doesn't sound like the mainstream shit you
Right,
hear every
right.
day.
I mean, and ultimately, that's kind of how any any niche usually stems from inspiration from something else, right? That was
Right,
mainstream or that because everything you've heard, you're influenced by, and
right.
anything you make, you had some influence to make that based on something else. So it's like to say you took it from mainstream and took it, and twisted into yourself. That's how every niche starts, and that's
Yeah,
I think that's super
exactly.
cool, and the fact that you can do that and you're able to create your own kind of sound, unique style like that is really impressive, and I think a lot of people, could if they learn to do that, especially here in Utah, I've seen that a lot here. People being able to
Yeah,
do that, I think that's where Utah will really find its own sound, its
right.
own spot on the map.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks though because you see a lot of people like that, and you do find people like that every once in a while that just have something that you've never heard before, but those aren't the people that get put on the pedestal. I mean, what appeals to the masses, but I don't know. If you're a music nerd like me, you're way more interested in the unique sounds and the unique styles. And I feel like if a lot of these artists had a chance to really be showcased in the way that these people are being showcased that regurgitate the same fucking song every two
Right.
weeks, the game would be a whole lot different. It really would. I mean, there's so endless artists I could name in Utah right now that are doing it like nobody else is.
Right, and that's why I think again, being able to bring artists like that on here is really cool because they always have something new to not only just bring with their music, but just from their inspirations, they always have something really unique to say, something very
Right.
just stuff that I feel like I'm learning from every single person I talk to. I feel like I'm learning from, and it's
Yeah.
like there's a lot of smart people out here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I feel like you got to be smart to move through the music industry, though. You really do
Hmm.
have to have a good head on your shoulders. Um, I mean, maybe not book smart necessarily, but you definitely have to be smart with people and street smart to move through the music industry because it's not a really nice place. People don't want to see you win. People don't want to see success for you. I mean, it's a bummer, but that's the way it is because a lot of people feel like you're taking food off their plate if you're the one winning.
Right, and which is like it's a kind of a selfish way to look at it, because then when you're the one winning, if you see it that way, right? If you're like, this person's taking my food, and then
Yeah.
when you finally are the one winning, then you might have more of a selfish outlook on it, like
Yeah.
Like kind of I'm better than everybody else.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I could see that too. I mean, the ego's a dangerous thing, you know? If you're the one winning and you're the one up, you're going to protect what's yours. And in that same way, there's somebody that's not on your level that's is hungry as much as you want to keep where you are at, you know?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's definitely it definitely is just so diverse that it just makes you wonder like where like I try to think a lot like where will this community be in 5 to 10 years. Like I do believe it'll be on the map, it'll be something big, but what is it going to
Right.
look like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what do you think it's actually truly going to look like, if you have any idea?
I mean, dude, everything moves so fast nowadays. I feel like I don't think music's going to look the same at all. Like I don't know. I feel like music will probably be a lot more of an experience than it is now because I mean just some of the advances in the past few years like the Dolby Atoms or whatever it's called, you know, where
Mhm.
if you're wearing like AirPods or something, you can hear the music from all around you and it's more of an experience in that way. And songs are being mixed and mastered that way for that purpose so people can experience the music in a different way.
Right.
I don't know, technology is just moving like ridiculously fast. We live in a cool time for that reason, so to try and guess what the scene's going to look like, I don't know, but I mean, history tends to repeat itself, right? I mean, we went from radio talk shows to podcasts.
Right. So it's like everything's kind of comes back but in a new modern kind of style
Right.
and take on
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
And it definitely it's like one way I like to think about it is how back then, before the especially before the internet and everything, not there was only a very limited amount of people that could actually make music and get shown to people, right? Like it was so much harder back then. But
Right.
now, because everyone, you just need a phone and you can make music. You can
Yeah.
share it with people and people can hear it. And that's
Like, what's that fucking app? Like BandLab or whatever? I see fucking TikToks all the time of people, I think it's BandLab, of people like just making a song off their fucking phone or maybe like a fucking $40 USB mic and like they make something dope. Like,
right.
it's cool. It's easily accessible for everyone.
And since sounds is so adjustable, so you can manipulate sound so much now. It's like
Like
you don't
crazy.
have to
It's
have high
wild.
quality stuff for it to sound good.
For sure.
It's
I
crazy.
I mean, I am a little bit of a stickler about my sound quality, but you really can use a not a great mic and turn shit into gold with a great engineer.
Right, exactly. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. So, I do want to. Sorry, were you gonna say something?
I was gonna add on to what we were talking
Oh
about,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I was just gonna say, just back to the point of it being so easily accessible for everyone nowadays. I feel like it's a good thing and a bad thing because you get a lot of people in the scene now with ulterior motives to making music. I mean, you could have a super talented motherfucker that does not care about making music and just is in it
Right.
for money or recognition, anything like that. And so it kind of kills the scene a little bit in a way because there's not such a love for it. Like I love hip hop, you know, I love the history of it, the story behind it. I love hip hop. I love music in general. But not everyone's like that now because there is ulterior motives with how readily available it is for everyone.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I was just thinking about that.
No,
I
no,
didn't mean to disrupt the flow.
no, you're fine. You're fine. I think I disrupted the flow there, but so this is just kind of moving off topic now because I kind of wanted to ask you like, why don't you tell us a little bit about like your kind of your life growing up a little bit? Just because you like you said you went from like living in Tooele County down to St. George when you turned
Yeah.
17 or graduated.
I mean, it wasn't great. I don't want to like have a pity party because I know there's a lot of people that had a lot worse than me. To anyone that I'm throwing under the bus here, I'm sorry. No, but yeah. So when I was born, we lived in West Valley, and I think I was maybe 4 or 5 by the time I moved out to Tooele County. By the time my parents moved us out there, because we lived in a really bad part of the town. It was dangerous, you know, and God, it's only worse now. It's fucking, it's getting bad, honestly, everywhere. But it was a pretty sketchy part of town, so I don't remember much from those days. You know, I was young. But we moved to Tooele County when I was around like 4 or 5 ish, I think. And yeah, coming up wasn't always easy. There was a like 5 year stretch in my life where I had like 9 or 10 family members die. And that led to a lot of shit in my immediate family's dynamic. Everyone copes in different ways, and unfortunately for my dad, his vices were substances, and that caused a lot of turmoil in my family. And so my parents separated. I'm not going to get into much detail about
Yeah.
this. And I didn't hear from my dad for a string of months. None of us did. I don't fully remember the timeline because I try not to think about it that much because there's
Yeah.
no use in feeding into negativity. But he was
Right.
supposed to go into rehab, and then that's when he disappeared, and nobody heard from him for who knows how long. And then one day he just like showed up at my junior high school and like gave me a phone number on a fucking on a little piece of paper, and I think it was like maybe a burner phone or some shit. Probably not. It was probably just some phone that he got after, not being a part of our family's plan or whatever anymore.
Right.
And I just remember trying to call that number and it not working. It was probably the wrong number, and that shit tore me up pretty good because, I mean, I'm a young kid. A young kid needs their dad. A young boy needs their dad. And so after that, I didn't hear from him for a little bit longer, but long story short, time heals all. And I'm on good terms with my dad now. I still think he's a great person. He's a good dad. He cares a lot. But yeah, those were kind of the turmoils that I went through growing up. But that's part of the story. But the flip side, there is always some good.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember much from West Valley, like I said, but growing up in Tooele was honestly a pretty cool experience because there was a lot of freedom. It was a pretty safe area, and most of the summer days were spent riding bikes, skateboarding, fucking throwing dirt balls at each other,
Right. Right.
stuff like that. And my mom did a really good job at raising us kids to where we had a good life. We were very broke growing up. The
Mm-hmm.
typical reusing sandwich bags, saving Tupperware from a restaurant that's a little bit sturdier than just like plastic or foam,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
using that. Short showers, turn lights off when you leave, etc. All the like little shit like that to try and nickel and dime it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't really reminisce on my childhood too much because there is a lot of shit that I didn't go into detail and won't go into detail. It was
Yeah.
like pretty rough. So sorry, that's not a really good answer.
No, you're fine. I appreciate that. So, do you feel like a lot of this is how much of this of what you kind of went through growing up has kind of led into you deciding to go into the music the way you have?
Oh, dude, like a lot, a lot. It had a lot of influence on me starting to make music because, I feel like there's a stigma as a man that you're not allowed to speak on your emotions. It's,
Right.
man up, fucking take it on the chin when something hurts. Just tough it out. It's those typical stereotypes which really are reinforced in our society still today very heavily.
Definitely.
Um, so music has been a great outlet for me. Whether, I mean, I have plenty of songs that I've never released that are just to get shit off my chest and to just talk. Luckily, I'm very grateful for my fiance because she's a very supportive person and takes care of me well and makes sure I'm good emotionally as I do for her. But music has definitely been the main factor in being able to vent and being able to let off steam when I need to, you
Yeah.
know? And fuck it, the subject matter might not even be about what I'm going through at the time. It's just the fact that I get to go and be creative that's really healing.
It gives you a chance to just let out energy essentially,
Yeah,
and when
exactly.
you make it positive like that, turning it into music and stuff, it's way better for you mentally
For sure.
and
That's what
healing.
I always try to do too. In a rough spot in my life, I was also turning to substances for my vices. And it got me into a pretty shitty spot in my life. This is somewhat recent. But nowadays I learn to cope in a much healthier manner, so I'm not falling back onto substances and shit that essentially just numbs you up, you know? It doesn't, there's nothing productive about it. So, I mean, but I didn't, like I discussed earlier, like those societal norms of just being a man and sucking it up, it can lead to that shit sometimes. So I've dealt with depression. I still deal with anxiety, you know, in a pretty heavy way. So finding a healthy outlet is very important. You know, it's not always easy, and a lot of people don't find something they love, and that's why I'm so grateful for music, because without it, I don't know where I would be, and without my fiance, I don't know where I'd be. But not everyone's that lucky, you know.
Oh yeah.
Not everyone finds something they love or someone they love that can really help dig them out of a bad spot. So, yeah, music has for sure played, long story long, it's played a big part in helping me mentally and emotionally, and it was also a big influence. My emotions was to get into music. So
That's awesome. I find it interesting. I feel like everyone is always around the corner from something they love or something
right,
they want to do, but the problem is they don't know how to find it, you know?
yeah, and I feel like a big part of that has to do with motivation, right? You know,
Oh yeah.
you're never gonna find something you want to do if you can't get motivated enough to go find it.
So what was the turning point where you just decided like like how old were you if you said how old are you now?
I'm 20 years old.
So if you're 20 years old, so you were 16 or 15 when you started music?
Yeah, so that I say October 2017 is when I started music, because that was the first time I dropped a song in October of 2017. But I think like a year prior to me actually releasing music and really going head on, I had been writing and stuff and like making songs, just never recording them. I actually more so fell into the opportunity of being able to do that.
So back when you first started and were just writing stuff and
Yeah.
ideas and whatnot, did you just see that more as a hobby, or you're like, I want to make this into something?
I mean, it was a hobby for sure, but there always was the desire to like, man, I really wish I could record this and hear it back instead of just like, you know, I want to hear this complete, you know?
Hearing that you're just the own echoes of your voice as
Right,
you go.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to, back when I was probably 15, 16, and 17, I played a lot of I don't even know what genre I'd call them, but I wrote a lot of songs on the guitar,
Yeah,
lyrics and everything. I probably more of an indie type of feel to it, but
right.
it's hard. It's really hard, and like at the time, making those songs, I was like, these sound awesome. I love these. I'd
Yeah,
perform them to my family and whatnot. They'd
right.
be like, oh, that sounds good. Now I listen back to them, I'm like, what was I thinking? This is
Oh, yeah.
terrible.
That's how it goes, dude. When you look back on your previous work, and especially if you've been working at something for a long time, you're like, what the fuck was I doing?
Yeah. Seriously, yeah, it's crazy. So so with being 20 now,
Yeah.
how do you feel like from where you've kind of were? I know you said you feel like you've improved a lot with your style and just everything really in the last 5 years. What kind of How do you feel like you've traveled like in your career, in your music career? In the last 5 years since you started.
Um, I don't know, dude. It's been a fucking weird ride because I've kind of been all over the place as far as like, I don't know. Maybe you could word this better so I don't give you a weird answer. Are you talking about how my music has progressed, or are you talking about the path I took?
I guess the kind of both, like the path you took because of your music,
Okay.
if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, I feel like once I started making music, it was actually also around the same time. It was when I met my girlfriend, now fiance, slash baby mama, shout out. um, everything changed from there, really. I started caring more about myself and caring more about my life, really, and I felt like I had more of a purpose.
Hmm.
So I feel like I started living in the present a lot more too. You know, I that was when I started branching out and making more friends, because before I was very introverted. And music did help me get past that, because I mean you're putting yourself out to everyone with music, so you kind of have to.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I feel like I just slowly progressed into who I am today. Like back then I was pretty quiet, soft spoken, very introverted. My personality is still I mean, essentially the same. I'm a lot more mature now, obviously, because I mean that just comes with age. But
Right.
I'm still an idiot.
Yeah, it's so I find introversion and being extroverted just so weird because back then I always considered myself so introverted,
Right.
and then just over time I feel like I feel like I've kind of got into a mix of where if my mood, depending on my mood, if I'm kind of in a kind of lower energy mood, not feeling as well, I'm way introverted. I like don't want to
Yeah.
talk to anybody. But when I'm like feeling great, I got high energy, it's like suddenly I'm the most extroverted person that you'll meet in the room. You know, it's just so weird
Right.
how it's like a spectrum. You know what I mean? How
No, I feel
you can
that.
kind of
Yeah,
be
I feel
anywhere.
that. When I meet new people in person, like our meeting is not the greatest example because when I am in a certain mode of like presenting myself, I'm a lot more personable.
Right.
But in my day to day, if I meet somebody, excuse me, I cannot make conversation. Like I don't know what to say. My mind just like runs to the point where I'm like, okay, well, if I say anything now, it's awkward. So maybe we should just end the conversation. Like I'm I'm so bad at meeting new people and even like talking to people I'm not super familiar with. I'm super fucking awkward. But when I know people, I mean whether they like me or not or I like them or not, I'm 100% me. Like
Right.
I don't if I know the person enough, like I don't put on any different kind of face for anyone. I mean, you can ask all my peers. That's just the way I am. But they'll also say the same about when I'm around people I don't really know.
Yeah.
I become a shell of who I really am. But
Right.
yeah,
It's. I'm
when I'm
sorry.
talking to someone like you, and I'm like, I mean, you make it easy to talk to you. I feel like not everyone has that skill, which is a good thing to have with podcasts. So when I'm talking to someone like yourself that is easy to conversate with, I feel comfortable being myself. But outside of that, in the day to day, I don't know, dude. I'm a fucking idiot when it comes to conversation.
You're the actually the first person who's told me that I'm easy to conversate with. I actually think I think I've gotten better at conversating like that because of this podcast. Because if you look back at my first podcast, I don't know what I'm doing. Right?
Yeah,
I'm
fair.
just constantly like just stuck trying to think what to say next. Even during the not the Storm Tour event, but the Royal Tea show that I did.
Yeah,
That one I was like, even then I just did not know how to like try and like just keep flow going for a
right.
conversation. And I've actually noticed if I try to use this skill when I'm podcasting, but I just imagine I'm in a podcast, it makes it much easier to talk to
Yeah,
somebody new.
right.
You know, like it's like especially if I'm trying to talk to a girl or like a new friend that I've just met or something. I'm just like, all right, I just think all right, I'm in a podcast with them. Here we go.
Dude,
Just
that's a good way to look at it too, though, because when I mean, typically in podcasts, people dive pretty deep, and so there's plenty to conversate about. It's not just your fucking small talk. So you have actual conversations with substance. So that's a
exactly.
fucking good strategy,
I
bro.
I hate small talk. Like I
Yeah,
mean it's kind of required for the start of a conversation with someone you just
for
met.
sure.
But like as soon as the first hi, how's it going? Good, how you doing? As soon as it's like past that part, you cannot keep doing small talk where it's not going to go anywhere. You
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah,
it's hard. It's sometimes it still is hard though. Like I'll even when I try to think about it as a podcast with somebody, there's some people who their energy I just can't get with, and it's
yeah.
just so hard to really get anything out of them or get
That's
to
where
know
I
them.
feel like I fell in daily conversation though, because if you don't really know a person much, you don't know their interests. Like I know you and I share common interests, right?
Right.
For the, I mean, we're doing this podcast right now,
Yeah.
but in day to day, I feel like I can't get past the small talk because I'm like, what the fuck would this person want to talk about with me?
Especially when like the context of when you're where you're meeting them, it just doesn't make sense. You're like,
Yeah,
how could I be friends with this guy? Well, I could probably be friends with this guy, but how can I talk to this guy? You know, like it's
right,
just.
exactly.
And then sometimes it's like the people you don't expect to be able to talk to. Suddenly you just find that one little thing where suddenly you go off in this 3 hour
Oh yeah,
conversation and you're
oh
like,
yeah,
yo, I fuck with this person. That's
for
sick.
sure. You can harp on like the littlest detail, like, dude, I'm a video game nerd, so when other people like video games, I'm like, dude, what's up?
What are your favorite games?
um, So that depends. Like, what kind of genre are we talking? Are we talking like Daily Driver, or are we talking like all times?
Let's say your favorite game you've ever played in your life, and then just the ones you kind of just play
Ooh.
now, just on regularly.
So, man, as of recently, there's two games I played that were fucking awesome. What's it called? Shit. It Takes Two, the co-op video game.
You
I don't
played
know
that
if you've
with
seen any.
your fiance?
Yeah, she
That's
loved it.
awesome. I haven't
We've
played that
replayed
yet.
that game like we rewatch a fucking TV series. I also finished Red Dead 2 like just recently. I'm very late on that one, but that game's fucking incredible. That's probably takes the cake as my all-time favorite now. But I would say like back in the day, man, a lot of the MX vs ATV games like Unleashed and Untamed like way back then. Black Ops 2 really got me into like daily gaming. And try and give a good example of a story game back then. I don't know, because I feel like back then the main story games I played were like campaigns on Call of Duties. I wasn't really too into any like role play games or stuff
Right.
like that. Maybe,
Were you ever
maybe
into
like
Skyrim?
Hitman. Skyrim, dude, yeah, that's a good one.
I
That was a
think
good
I
one.
think that one. I don't even know why. Like I play it now and it's still fun. It's just
It's not the same though.
it's not the same anymore. But it's
That's the cloudiness of nostalgia. You're
right. But in my
experiencing, bro.
mind, it's still at the top. Like my favorite
Yeah,
game I've ever played because I
exactly.
just sink so many hours into it. If not that one, another more nostalgic kind of game. I'd say it's Counter-Strike Source.
Yeah.
Did you ever
Okay.
play that one?
I don't think so.
It's
Wait, a Counter Strike Source?
yeah. It's
I don't even know if I've heard of that.
it's an older one. Did you ever heard of Counter-Strike Global Offensive?
Yeah, I played that.
Yeah, so it's like a predecessor to that one.
Oh, okay.
It came out in like 2004, I think, but it's
Right,
like it's a
right.
class. It's a very much a classic, and it's just
Okay.
I have a lot of good memories on that one. So that one's and that's probably why it's because more of the memories rather than
Oh yeah,
the
for
game
sure.
itself.
Yeah, going back now and playing games that I used to love, I go back and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fucking awesome. I haven't played this game in like X amount of
Right.
years, and I start playing it, I'm like, dude, this kind of sucks.
Or sometimes you go back and play a game, you're like, this is just as good as I remember.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that one's more rare. I feel like one of the games that's really stood the test of time is Black Ops 2, dude. I will love that game forever.
Especially zombies. You play zombies? Yes, sir.
Dude, I would get down on zombies.
Same. Every single time I go back, I always have just as much fun. It's
I just
just
remember those nights of like 3 a.m. with the homies, fucking four
Yeah.
screens, you know?
going around doing like Mob of the Dead or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever.
Dude, town was the spot though. That's like the perfect spot. There's 4 fucking corners. Everyone can get a train going. And you just go to like round 50.
Yeah.
Goated. But it's-
Me and my friends were terrible at town. We were like a lot
Really?
better at other maps. Yeah.
Dude, the one that we fucking sucked at always was, what is it, Transit?
Oh yeah,
With the bus?
It's super hard, but it's one of my
It is.
favorites just because I love the bus to it. Then just
Bro,
go into each spot. It's so
We'd
sick.
always die after we got the power on because the bus leaves and you gotta survive there long enough to where it comes
yeah.
back around. And man,
that
it's
that
hard.
that usually is the threshold right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but as far as nowadays, I've been playing the new Modern Warfare. I've been playing this game called Riders Republic. It's like an action sports game. What else? Man, not a lot. I mean, I played Fortnite for fucking ever, and then the game just turned into fucking like
Something.
who knows.
Well, I don't know. See, I used to play that one, and I even streamed it on Twitch. I was like streaming it on
Really?
Twitch. It was super fun, and now it's like, although the no builds is actually pretty fun. I love
It
the
is,
no
yeah.
builds, but
For a while there, I took like a really long break because with the builds, I was extremely fucking sweaty and I was like pretty good. But then there's always somebody better than you, and skill-based
Right.
matchmaking makes sure you find them.
yeah, yeah.
So-
They make sure you're in a lobby full of even try harders. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Dude, and the no build though, so during my fiance's pregnancy, my brother, his fiance, my fiance, and I would always play quads, or I guess squads, it's called
Yeah.
in Fortnite, on no builds, dude. Constant W's. We were fucking really
That's
good
awesome.
at I'm not even gonna hold you. We were good, but nowadays all I play is search and destroy on the new Modern Warfare with my homies and my brother. So
Yeah, I think. What do you think of the new Modern Warfare? It's
okay, so I have a different perspective.
Okay,
Because
okay.
the last game I played was Cold War, and Cold War didn't have the same kind of movement as Modern Warfare 2019 that everyone wants, and I didn't play that. I didn't buy Vanguard, and now I'm playing MW2, and to me, it feels like it plays like an older COD, just faster paced.
right. Yeah, I agree 100%.
And
And
I really like it. I think it's great. I mean, it really comes down to gunplay more than anything, but the time to kill is a lot shorter than previous games. But I mean, it's a skill issue if you're not winning your gunfights.
right. I honestly love it. I think the last Call of Duty game, other than the 2019 Warzone that came out, other than that, I don't think I'd played a Call of Duty multiplayer since probably Black Ops, or no, probably actually just Ghost, Call of Duty Ghosts. I think was the last
Dude,
one.
Ghost is overhated. People fucking
Right?
hated
No,
on that game
I
way too
loved
much.
Ghost. I love, especially. Did you play the Extinction on that with the
uh,
aliens?
no.
You never.
Was that like a zombies mode?
It's like a zombie. Oh, sort of. It's like there was waves of like aliens coming at you, but it was also
Oh.
followed kind of a story that had an endpoint that you
No,
got
I
to.
didn't play that. I
It
mean,
was sick. It was so cool.
fuck, what year was Ghosts? Like
Was that
20?
2015 or 14? 14, maybe 13.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
probably
it's
14, 13. Probably 13. 13 sounds right.
Here, I just have Google right here. Oh. It came out in 2013, November 5th.
Yeah.
So
So in 2013, I was 13, 12, 13, depending on what time of year it came out. So I don't remember a ton from that game, but I remember everyone complaining about it, and I really liked it. So
yeah, I loved it. It's one of those weird games that like I feel like the people I played it with back then liked it, and now
Yeah.
when I talk to them, they're like,
Everyone
"Oh,
hates
that
it.
game sucks." And I'm like, "What? I like that game."
yeah, dude, I think the like when I stopped playing Call of Duty was like Infinite Warfare, Advanced Warfare time era, and I was like,
Oh yeah,
this is bullshit. Like, this sucks. And then the next COD I bought after that was Cold War, actually, which is also another overhated game. That game's fun.
yeah. I just kind of stopped following Call of Duty, but then with Modern Warfare 2, I'm like, you know what? They
Yeah.
redeemed themselves for me. Like this
Dude,
is a
I feel
sick
like
game. I love this game.
This is the biggest Call of Duty in so fucking long. I feel like everyone's playing.
Right, and like consistently playing, not just the 2 months that after it came out and then it just dies.
Facts.
You know what I mean?
Facts. Which is every year.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, bro, anything else you want to say before we end up wrapping up?
Man, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do want to say thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I think what you're doing is super sick. I think it's a very good thing to have people like yourself around that have a vision to, give this scene any type of resource in general, and that's what you are giving to everyone. So I think that's awesome, and I appreciate it.
Of course, man. But I gotta thank you guys too, like you and any of the other artists, because what would I wouldn't have this if I didn't have you guys,
Right,
willing to come
exactly.
on and whatnot. So it very
vice
is much
versa.
a shared effort, and
Yep.
I appreciate you guys a lot as well.
Like I said, a rising tide floats all boats.
Yeah. So where can they find you if they want to follow you on social media or
Yeah.
on music?
So, social media, everything is just Sammy Skeleton, no spaces, no special characters, anything like that. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, that's the main places I am. I don't really touch anything else. Music, I'm on every platform you could possibly think of. That's also Sammy Skeleton, but the S's are $signs because I was like 15 when I made that name. So, but it's stuck.
It's kind of
stuck,
cool.
so
I like it. I've actually
fuck
had
with you, thank
I've
you.
actually had a few friends that I've like just mentioned your name, and they're like,
Uh-huh.
Sammy Skeleton. That's a fucking sick name.
Hell yeah. Dude, it's because I'm a fucking twig. I think so how I got the name is it was like Halloween time, and I needed a name for my artist self, and everyone on Twitter was like changing their names, like their handle or whatever, to match like Halloween, and it was like, I don't know, Penelope Pumpkin or some shit like that. Like that was what was going on in my high
Right.
school, so I changed it to Sammy Skeleton. And then it got the $signs with music, and now it's just stuck. It never went away.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to follow me on social media, it's just out at Reese's on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube or whatever, or just Reese Shalvis for my personal. I appreciate you coming on, man. This has been
Thank
an
you.
honor. I will definitely have to stay in touch and
For sure.
and do things, just keep things going.
For sure.
Be cool. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe, and anywhere you're listening or watching, hope you're having a good morning, day, afternoon, or night. Have a good one. Peace.